Thank you, Mark. Thank you, IJS, for all the holy work that you do. And I don't know if it's your practice, but I would like to dedicate this moment of meditation to our beloved Rachel Cowan, for whom IJS was so important. And I remember when she was beginning to dream about something like this even to exist. So may her memory be for a blessing. I'm in Costa Rica. What you see behind me is real. I live in the rainforest, and God willing, one day here. I want to also express gratitude to all the teachers who open up the text of the prayers and to help us to understand that another way of praying and relating to liturgy was not going through the prayers, but allowing the prayers to go through us and to take them personally. I remember the first retreat with Morateno Shefa Gold, and I heard that maybe she would be here. So my gratitude to her, to Rav Zalman, Alava Shalom, and many others. So I invite you to close your eyes if you feel comfortable. I'm outdoors, and I invite you to use the sounds of nature, the birds, the rush of the river that I have very close to my home, as your trusted anchor, as the place where you come back again and again when the mind gets distracted. Because this is what the mind does. The job of the mind is to produce thoughts, and thoughts produce feelings, and feelings produce more thoughts. So I invite you to use the sounds of nature to come back to the breathing of the earth, the breathing of the plants, of the birds, of the river. And notice your thoughts without engaging with them. Looking at them, noticing them like an old friend. Where we can say, I see you. I notice you. But not now. Thank you for being there. And let's allow the sound and the song of the birds to be like a reversed mikvah, where we let the sound of nature to come inside of us. And to search for places where there might be tightness. We're holding to something. And there the birds go to sing. Or the river. On that place of our bodies, of our neshamot, those that are calling for attention. We let the birds bring peace. To sing to us. And to cleanse our bodies and our souls. Let's be in silence. Listening to the sounds of nature. As they cleanse us. They take us to the Gan Eden, to the primordial place of creation, where everything flows, and equanimity becomes a reality. Let's be in silence together, noticing the thoughts that are coming back to the sounds of nature.
Marcelo, I think you're muted. Sorry.
So the prayer of the Tane Tokef begins to percolate. As we prepare for Teshuvah, and the expression called the Mamad Akai Shama, a still small voice will be heard. Wow. Call the Mamad Akai Shama. I want to invite you to repeat this as a mantra. Call the Mamad Akai Shama. Call the Mamad Akai Shama. A still small voice of the soul will be heard. When we dare to shut up, when we dare to embrace silence, when we dare to create a platform for the soul to speak up, when we dare to put the ego aside, the shoulds, the musts, the next, to do, just to sit in silence. Call the Mamadaka Ishama. A still small voice will be heard. Because the soul wants to be heard, wants to be seen, wants to be embraced. And for that, we have to create space. So simple as that. Invite us to take this not only as a prayer or a section of a prayer, as an invitation for the coming holidays. So with this invitation, the call the Mamadaka, the Shama, the still small voice will be heard. If you feel comfortable, I invite you to open your eyes. I wish I could see you. To open our eyes, to stretch if you need to stretch. Do like this. And I want to leave you with that invitation. Call the Mamada Kaishana. Still small voice of the soul will be heard if we allow to that voice to speak up. Thank you to all. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you so much for that gift, Marcelo. Thank you so much. Friends, we seal the practice as we do every day by offering those who are in mourning, observing a yard site. If you're holding any grief in your heart, offer you the opportunity to join in Kaddish and to put the name or names of anyone you're holding in your heart in the chat box if you like, either now or after we recite Kaddish. And thanks to Adi for sharing the words on the screen, inviting you to rise in body or in spirit for Kaddish. Yitkadal, Yitkadash, Shemei Rabbah,
Amen.
Yamad, Divrach, Yeruteh, V'yamlich Malchuteh, V'chayechon, V'mechon, V'chaye D'chol Beit Yisrael, V'agalah, V'zman Kariv, V'imru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Yebarach, Olam Olamei Amaya, Yitbarach, Yitzbach, Yitpa'ar, Yitrumam, Yitnaseh, Yitada, Yitalel, Yitzal, Shmei, Yishab, La'ela, Kol Birchata, Shirata, Ushbechata, V'nechemata, Rambam, Yamashema, Amen. Rabba Messiah, Chaim Kalenu Yisrael, Amen.
Shalom,
Shalom Bimrama, Shalom Kleinu V'Yal Kol Shvei Tevel V'Imru. Amen.
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 Friends, thank you so much for joining us as always, and you're welcome to stay on for a few minutes of conversation with Rabbi Marcelo Bronstein about the teaching, about his work, about our practice today. For those who are leaving, we invite you to join us tomorrow. We'll be led in practice by Rabbi Dorothy Richman as we sit into Shabbat on Friday. Always really lovely to do that together. Here in America, sitting into a long weekend, Shabbat and a long weekend. Just a reminder that because of the observance of Independence Day, we will not be meeting live on Monday. We'll be here next week, Tuesday, nor will there be yoga. On Monday, we will be meeting, though, here for meditation Tuesday through Friday next week. So we hope to see you tomorrow with Rabbi Dorothy Richman, or next week with any one of our wonderful teachers coming next week. Thanks to Adi Stein for holding our space, as always, with skill and with grace. And want to invite you to share any questions, observations you might have, any questions you might want to put to Rabbi Marcelo Bronstein in the chat box. I'll try to keep an eye on it. I'm going to put, again, the link to Marcelo's website there so you can check out what Marcelo is offering these days by way of therapy and this Tshuva puzzle project. So Marcelo, I want to first of all just thank you for inviting us into your office today. Like that alone, Dayenu, to see, to hear, to vicariously join you there in such a special place is really, really a gift, that alone, plus the teaching. So I would love to use the opportunity, since we don't have this opportunity that much, to hear a little bit about, at least for myself, I'm curious to hear about what it's like to practice in a place like where you are. There are people I know who are sitting here today who may have been on retreats with you in Costa Rica or through BJ or elsewhere. So I'd like to hear that, but also connected with where you wound up with the Kol Damama Daka, usually translated as the still small voice, and synchronously, it's serendipitously, that phrase occurs in the Haftarah for the Shabbat for Pinchas with the prophet Elijah, and so I wanted to bring that in too, actually, because to connect the dots here is something we like to do after the sit. But let's just start with where you are, and hearing the sounds of nature. And I think what I got was an awareness of, every time I take a breath, every time I receive a breath, every time I release a breath, the planet is breathing with me, or the planet is breathing through me. So what's your sense of that? Do you have a sense of that on an ongoing basis being there? Like, what is that like for you in a place where the earth is so palpably breathing? I can almost feel it, through the screen here, watching you. It's amazing. What's that like? Oh, you're muted. We want to hear everything that's going on there, so don't mute.
Okay, I didn't. Okay, mute by itself.
Okay.
You say silent, get muted.
Okay.
It's interesting. I grew up in a city in Buenos Aires. It's a very cosmopolitan, beautiful city. But I had grandparents who had a house in the delta of the Paraná River, which is one of the largest deltas in the world. And this house didn't have electricity, nothing. And we had to go to the house by rowing. I'm a rower, so we take this boat. It was an hour and a half rowing, or they have a very little simple motorboat. And we go there, and for me, was entering into another planet. No electricity, no TV, no nothing, and just what conversation. The word mindfulness didn't exist in those days. So it was the contemplation of nature, being in contact with the river, the high tide, the low tide. And this is how I grew up. Every Friday after school till Monday morning, we
Wow.
come very early, go to, so it was,
Wow.
and Sunday, so I'm going to say something that is not politically correct, so please.
We love that. Go for it.
We love that. Okay. You know, Argentinians to be vegetarians need a few incarnations, okay? So so the barbecues on Sunday were historical in the house of my grandparents because they belong to the intelligentsia, the Jewish intelligentsia of Argentina. So psychoanalysts, writers, painters, musicians. It was a gathering of intellectuals, and it was wow. And the barbecues basically lasted for 5 hours until people would collapse, you know, and then we continue with mate and guitar and singing. So the power, I learned there the power of community, the power of being in community in nature. And all my life, I have the yearning to go back to that place. And I had it in Camp Ramah. Then later in Argentina, I went to Camp Ramah when I was 9 years old the first time, and I ended when I was 30 nonstop. And you know, I became the director. So places, I don't know if Shefa is still here, but when I went to the retreat with Shefa and praying, I remember there the first time in New Mexico, you know, doing Rabbi Nachman's prayer. And there in a rock, and said, I want to do this. This is how I want to live. And so I began with beloved Rachel Cowan. I said to Rachel one day, 12 years ago, I said, Rachel, I want to do retreats in Costa Rica. Would you? So, and that was.
Go ahead. We lost your sound for a sec, but it's back.
Okay. So I started doing retreats. There's a mountain here called Chiripo, and I found people they have like a Shaolin temple, and they have roots as Marranos Jews that I discovered by doing the retreats there. So I rented this place for 10 years to do retreats with BJ, and it was really such a blessing to do it. Rachel was with me for 8 of those. And then in one of those retreats, I said, Rachel, you know, I love BJ. BJ is my community. I love New York. I'm a New Yorker in so many ways. But I want to do this on the last leg of my rabbinate. So here's a mystical moment. This is my friend. We studied together, rabbinical school. We're still, you know, in the prayer mode. He takes my talit, put it on the head, and gives me the most beautiful blessing. And basically, she said, you have to do it. Mm-hmm. You really have to do it. So it began the process of transition out of my life and my love in BJ and beginning here. And a dear friend of mine was starting this eco-villa. We live in an eco-villa, which is a kind of a 21st century place to live in, because there are people from 22 countries, I believe. But we have high-speed internet connection that doesn't work today, but not because of the eco-villa, because there was a storm somewhere. So I'm calling by the phone, with the phone. So, and I am married to another crazy person, Karina Zilberman, who was the director of Jewish Family Life at the 92nd Street Y. And we said, we are going to have a home where we can do this. So we created a home that is comfortable enough for 10 people. And We began after we moved here to create retreats, and we managed to do 4 retreats, but then COVID. And I'm a shrink. I'm a psychologist. This is what I was doing as a rabbi in BJ. Many times I did a lot of that, but as a pastoral care. So in this moment, I have my practice, and I say that in my website. My practice, I combine Jewish wisdom, psychology, and mindfulness, and I have 50% of my practice are non-Jews. I had people from all over the world. And one day, God willing, B'Merav Yameinu, going back to retreats. I don't know if here at home, or we have a few retreat centers, not only that one that I mentioned. So it's very special to live in a place where nature breathes, where we eat our own jackfruit and amazing, and guayabas and guavas. And we have 3 avocado trees here in our property. And last week, there was like 150 avocados were taken from the trees. So we share this from everybody. And somebody has, we have excess of mango, excess of avocados, excess of guayabas, excess. I mean, it's so lush. So we feel very blessed. So I meditate every day. I have a hiking every day. And so I wanted to live the last leg of my rabbinate in that place that I grew up with, in the place with nature, with harmony, with less stress, and being able to do less, more focused. So it's a gift that I gave, that Karina and I gave to each other.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing. First of all, really great to hear that story about your childhood and the connection between that. Wonderful to hear that. I didn't know that, so that's really, thanks for sharing that. Thank you also for the dedication for Rachel, and for those, Rachel is referenced often in these sets, but if people don't know who Rachel was, or what her impact was, or her connection to the Institute, it's just suffice to say that her spirit really infuses absolutely everything that IJS does, and we would not be sitting here doing any of this if it weren't for her. And Marcelo wouldn't be where he is either, for that matter. And I live on Rachel Street, so I'm really blessed to constantly be reminded of her presence as a blessing in my own life too. So a couple more minutes, Marcelo. I want to go back for 1 second. This year, there's a Shemitah year coming up this next year, which people are going to be hearing a lot about, because IJS is going to be framing much of our teachings, and in fact, all our meditations for the month of Elul, which we call the Shofar Project, will be geared towards the themes of Shemitah. It's a year of release. It's basically a sabbatical year for the land, for the earth, and a time of release. So I want to go back to what I said about awareness. It's when you're sitting in Manhattan, amidst the concrete and the cement, it's very hard to remember that the planet is breathing. But watching you and listening to you made it very easy for me to say, oh, of course, the planet is always breathing, and it's happening through me. It's not like my breathing is like the planet's breathing. My breathing is the planet's breathing. It is nishmat chayim, every moment. And Shemitah, the year that we're going to enter into, is a year for remembering that. So I want to highlight that. But the Kol Damama Daka, because I see there were some questions or comments about, like, well, what if the Kol Damama Daka says this, or what if it says that? And I do want to highlight for people, and I want to invite people to go look at the Haftarah for this week, the Shabbat Parsha for Pinchas, which tells the story of the prophet Elijah after he zealously slays the priests of Baal and goes as a fugitive, runs away to Sinai like Moses, right? And the Holy One appears to him not in the earthquake, not in the noise, not in the fire, but in the Kol Damama Daka. And he comes out of the cave, which is a big motif for this this COVID era of being in the cave and coming out of the cave. When he comes out of the cave, what he hears is Malacha Po, Eliyahu, which is one of the great questions of the whole Tanakh, the whole Bible, right? Along with Ayeka in the Garden of Eden, which is, I guess, the question you hear. So when you walk in the garden, You live in Gan Eden, so you must hear Ayeka all the time. Malacha po, or malach po, why are we here? So, Marcelo, we have just a couple of minutes. It's a big question. It's an hour-long answer here. But what are we listening for in the Kol Dama Daka, that mantra that you were suggesting? Kol Dama Daka. Are we listening for something specific? I'm suggesting here that there's an association in that particular story of Elijah with a reminder to consider why I am here. What is my purpose? What is the meaning of my life? That's the, it's the Kol Dama Daka is a question, an invitation. So I just wanted to hear your thoughts about that. What does it represent for you?
I think first of all, thank you for the question. I believe, yes, the Kol Dama Daka is an invitation. It's an invitation to say there is another dimension to reality. There is another dimension. There is a way that we can fine tune. I remember when I was a kid, I used to play with the, shortwave radios. I don't know if you ever did it. You turn, the dial, and suddenly you hear this noise, and suddenly, boom, you hear Russian, you hear Turkish, you hear English, so suddenly you hear a voice. In many ways, I think mindfulness is that. We have the noise, and we need to fine tune with the belief that there is a voice. First of all, the belief that there is a voice, actually, that there is meaning beyond absurdity, as Herschel used to say. There is meaning beyond absurdity, and I need to get deeper and allow the voice to come up. So first of all, the belief that there is a voice and there is a dimension where this voice exists is wow. But then what if in the context of that invitation, I ask questions? So first of all, I connect with the belief of that this voice exists. So I am there, I'm sitting, I'm in silence, and then I dare to ask the question, why am I here for? Voice, tell me. And Chatimato shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu emet, and the seal of God is truth. So whatever emerges is a kind of truth that represents some aspects of our soul. So there is Torah there. There is Torah. There is something that is hiding and hidden. And we just stop the noise. We believe there is a possibility of a connection, a deeper connection. And then we ask the question. And we could ask that question. We could ask the question of Ayeka. We could ask many questions. Yeah. And I believe that's a must, to connect with this shortwave, with this dimension, and ask these ultimate questions of life.
Beautiful. All right, sadly, we have to end here, but I want to thank you again, Marcelo, for the beautiful teaching. It's just a real gift, and a real gift, to bring us into your home and your office, and to give us just a taste of Gan Eden there, and to make in your answer just now to, I think, make clearer for people, I hope, the connections between meditation, prayer, and Torah and study, the links between them. And it also leads me to say at the end of this, stay tuned. In other words, right? Tune in and stay tuned. Stay tuned to the station. So we hope to see you all tomorrow for practice with Rabbi Dorothy Richmond. And Marcelo would be delighted if we can find another date for you to come back. We hope you're well. Again, I see there were a lot of questions, by the way, for people about Torah study on Tuesdays. That is on hiatus for the summer. Stay tuned for that, for information about that. But there is no Torah study next Tuesday or over the summer with Rabbi Slater. Okay, everyone. Be well. Many blessings. Marcelo.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite.
Blessings to Karina and to you.